All right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called On Deadly Ground, 1994. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. I'm giving this effing piece of poop 1 out of 5 stars. We're talking On Deadly Ground. This Steven Seagal hit blockbuster movie where he shows the world that the script is written by AI. And the rest of the movie consists of farting into a mic. Sorry, I did my bad imitation of Space Ice. I posted the link to the Space Ice review of this flick. Space Ice doesn't even do this movie justice. It's an environmentalist propaganda movie disguised as an action flick. It's basically what it boils down to. If I have to sit through another Steven Seagal speech, I'm going to barf. Okay. I can understand the wanting to get rid of the arms race a la Superman 4. That's a lofty goal. It's reasonable to get rid of the weapons that's going to destroy the planet 500 times or over. That makes sense. I can understand this, but this is just environmentalist propaganda. And Steven Seagal is showing Smog from 1994. I guess he hasn't been around the LA area since then, where there is no smog, but that won't stop him from making environmentalist, alarmist demands that government regulate big oil in a manner of putting them out of business. It's only 1994, and he's saying the technology to replace the internal combustion engine has been around for 50 years. But big oil put a stop to it. He sounds like an environmentalist nut, a communist, and a threat to freedom everywhere. And that's why I hate this movie so much. You could throw in Ermy. You could have nude scenes, explosions, cool fight scene with James Liu, and this movie still is a turd, because every time Steven Seagal opens his mouth, he sounds like a blithering idiot. On Deadly Ground is a 1994 U.S. environmental action adventure film directed, co-produced by and starring Steven Seagal. Oh, I forgot to give Steven Seagal the direction and the production credit. No wonder this movie stinks. Why did they let Steven Seagal do so much so-called creative stuff in the mid-90s? Why? I mean, he's just basically ruined his own career by these kind of movies. And it just went downhill from there, from the 90s, I guess. Directed by Steven Seagal and produced by Steven Seagal. Even the soundtrack stinks on this one. Got Reba McEntire and the Scorpions. What the heck kind of soundtrack is that? Starring Michael Caine, Joan Chen, John C. McGinley, and R. Lee Ermy. As of 2024, it is Seagal's only directorial effort, and it features a minor appearance by Billy Bob Thornton in one of his early roles. Seagal plays Forrest Taft, an expert firefighter who chooses to fight against the environmental destruction caused by his ruthless former employer, run by Michael Caine. Yeah, he chooses to fight back against the environmental destruction by blowing up half of Alaska. On Deadly Ground was theatrically released in the U.S. on February 18, 1994 by Warner Brothers. It garnered negative reviews from critics, and it grossed a whopping $78.1 million worldwide on a whopping $50 million production budget. So I would venture to guess that this was a financial flop. It was Steven Seagal's first and only attempt at directing, and it's a real stinker. His battle to save the Alaskan wilderness and protect the people. Can't even read the rest of it. I'm looking at the movie poster. Okay, production company, Seagal Nasso Productions, distributed by Warner Brothers. Release date February 18, 1994 in the United States. Running time 101 minutes too long. Languages English and Yupik. Budget $50 million, box office $78.1 million. I wonder how much they paid Seagal to direct this monstrosity. Aegis Oil owns various oil refineries and rigs in Alaska. So we have the white male swine of a capitalist pig here, cursing and yelling at everybody, where the company faces great opposition from the public due to the increasing environmental damage done by its operations. Aegis had purchased the oil production rights from the local tribal council 20 years prior. However, the rights will revert to the natives if Aegis 1, the company's newest oil platform and biggest refinery, is not online within a certain deadline. In order to make the deadline in the face of multiple delays, CEO Michael Jennings forces his workers to use substandard parts. So rather than waiting 90 days for the good part, they'll just use the bad part. Foreman Hugh Palmer's rig suffers a blowout due to faulty parts. Trained firefighter Forrest Taft extinguishes the blaze. However, they have become suspicious of their company's consistently poor safety record. Taft manages to hack into the company's computer files, and Taft learns about the faulty parts after being informed of Palmer's efforts to alert the Environmental Protection Agency and of Taft's access to restricted files, Jennings arranges for both of them to be eliminated by his chief security officer, Magruder, and his assistant, Otto, played by Sven-Ole. Sven-Ole Thorsen, sorry. The two ransack Palmer's cabin and they brutally torture and murder him when he refuses to cooperate. Meanwhile, Taft is ordered by Jennings to head over to another accident site, but he realizes too late that the damaged building has been rigged as a booby trap. Taft narrowly survives the ensuing explosion. Taft is rescued by Masu, the daughter of Yupik tribe chief Siluk. So Joan Chen played Masu? Did she get full frontal nudity? She's Chinese. She's not even Eskimo. And she's speaking in some weird language called Yupik. She's a Chinese woman speaking Yupik. I thought I saw full frontal. Did I see her pubic hairs? It was too dark. And the camera angle was kind of off-center. At the behest of Siluk, Taft undergoes a vision quest in which he sees the full truth. Taft vows to make amends for his part in Aegis crimes by blowing up half of Alaska. Meanwhile, the Aegis security team tracks Taft to Siluk's village, and when the tribe turns them down, a confrontation ensues, ending with Magruder fatally shooting Siluk. Taft returns in time to have one last talk with Siluk before he succumbs to his wounds, vowing to avenge him and bring down Aegis. And we get all this environmentalist nonsense about Mother Earth, the bear, and the raven. Some kind of New Age religion nonsense. Taft and Masu, the Chinese Eskimo, make their way to Palmer's cabin. While gathering supplies, they find his incriminating disc containing proof of Aegis's crimes. So they tortured this 85-year-old man, World War II veteran. And they still couldn't find it. Otto and 3 Aegis security guards track the pair back to the cabin. Taft ambushes the party, quickly killing all of them. How nice of him to destroy private property and to kill his former co-workers. Jennings then deploys a squad of mercenaries led by an older man named Stone, but Taft manages to evade the group by killing several of the members with booby traps and blowing up a shack, which obliterates a helicopter, effectively finishing their pursuit. Taft and Masu collect weapons and explosives, and Taft and Masu proceed to sneak into the refinery complex. Taft sabotages Aegis 1 by killing the main power and forcing a reboot, then releasing hydrochloric acid inside the refinery. He then plants a series of C4 explosive charges into several oil tanks and in the control room, and he sets them to a timer. But he warns some of his former employees, to run like hell because the whole Aegis 1 is about to explode. And it was not an impressive explosion, by the way. Jennings had already arrived at the refinery to check on it when he gets word of Taft's infiltration and orders. Jennings orders his henchmen to find and kill him. Taft fights and eventually eliminates every opposing mercenary, including Magruder and Stone using firearms, a steel pipe, and even burning gasoline. He then confronts and corners Jennings, condemning him for his greed and corruption. How dare you, white man, destroy the Eskimo and the polar bear. As Jennings attempts to escape, Taft lassos one of his legs with a cable, puts it on a hook, and shoots the cable, sending Jennings to his death into a pool of oil sludge below. And that makes Seagal's Chinese Eskimo girlfriend very happy. Taft lassos one of his legs. Oh, I already said that. He and Masu then escape the rig just as the hidden C4 charges detonate, causing a chain of explosions that ravages the entire plant. They flee the exploding refinery in an Aegis truck, escaping as Aegis 1 is torn down by the fire. And we have the most ridiculous, annoying, stupid speech in the history of cinema at the end of this movie. It utterly disgusted me, and anything good that happened, like the hallucinogenic scene with all the nudity, it just went out the door after I saw that. On Deadly Ground received negative reviews from critics on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes. 14% of 35 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 3.5 out of 10. Very low. Although I'm giving it a lower 2 out of 10. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 33 out of 100 based on 18 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film a grade of B- on an A+ to F scale. At the time of its release, Gene Siskel included the film in his worst of list for 1994, singling out the melancholy tone of the film and the quality of Seagal's dialogue on their syndicated TV show Siskel and Ebert. Siskel called the film's pyrotechnics low rent and stated that he didn't think the fight sequences were anything special. He noted that Seagal's speech at the end was more interesting than the actual fighting. Yeah, it would be to somebody like Gene Siskel, because he's another communist environmental nut himself. Roger Ebert, for his part, stated the movie was limited to 2 basic qualities: it's violent and it's sanctimonious, and opined that while it doesn't pay to devote close attention to the plot, I wasn't even aware that there was a plot. If you like to see lots of stuff blowed up real good, then this will be a movie for you. Yeah, which is probably why Karate Man likes it. Even though he presumably supports Donald Trump's position on the environment, not Steven Seagal's. His opinion on the ending speech was that it was absurd, stating, at the end, after Seagal kills about 30 people and blowing up the largest oil refiner in the world, what happens? He's invited to the Alaska State Legislature to give a talk about ecology. I'm not sure, but blowing up oil refineries does not make you that popular in Alaska. No kidding. Why would anybody reward an environmental terrorist to the Alaska legislature? It's like inviting Earth First to do a speech. Variety film critic Leonard Clady referred to the film as a vanity production parading as a social statement, and commented the film seemingly borrowed heavily from the earlier film Billy Jack, but opined that Seagal lacked acting technique and the ability behind the camera to keep the story simple and direct that Billy Jack star Tom Laughlin exhibited. Like Siskel, Clady also singled out the speech by Seagal's character at the end of the film, which was horrible, ruined the whole movie in my view. In the 1996 movie guide, Seen That Now What? The film was given the rating of C-, stating this combination of action environmental rights movie is an interesting hybrid in concept, but a filmic mess in execution, including embarrassing Eskimo shaman scenes, a well-meaning lecture finale on endangered species. The last thing I want to see in a movie at the end is some do-gooder environmentalist nut from Earth First telling me that about dependence on fossil fuels. I've heard that speech before in real life, and I'm still not convinced. Seagalogy author Verne considers On Deadly Ground to be one of Seagal's defining works writing. It's the corniest, most unintentionally hilarious movie of his career, but it's also Seagal's most sincere and his most ballsy, going on to claim you can't understand Seagal if you haven't seen On Deadly Ground. Well, I've seen On Deadly Ground and I still can't understand Seagal. He points out that many of the most important themes and motifs that define Seagal's work are present in the film, and more overtly so than in any of his other films. That's unfortunate. Caine's U.S. accent in the film, which the Daily Telegraph described as that of a Texan that had been brought up in the mean streets of London, has made several worst movie accent lists. The film grossed $38.6 million in the US and Canada and $78.1 million worldwide against its reported $50 million budget. The film received 6 Golden Raspberry Award nominations and won in the Worst Director category. The film is listed in Golden Raspberry Award founder John Wilson's book, The Official Razzie Movie Guide, as one of the 100 most enjoyably bad movies ever made. Golden Raspberry Award. Worst Actress, Joan Chen, nominated. Worst Actor, Director. Steven Seagal, nominated and won. Worst Picture, Steven Seagal, A. Kitman Ho, Julius R. Nasso, nominated. Worst Screenplay, Ed Horowitz, nominated. Ed Horowitz and Robin Urison, nominated, I should say. Worst Original Song, Under the Same Sun, Mark Hudson, Claus Mean, Bruce Fairbaum, excuse me, nominated. Year-end list. First worst, S.P. Means, the Salt Lake Tribune. Second worst, Bob Strauss, Los Angeles Daily News. Seventh worst, Dan Kraft, The Pantograph. Ninth worst, Peter Travers, Rolling Stones. Top 10 worst, list alphabetically not ranked, Mike Mayo, The Roanoke Times. Top 10 worst not ranked, Betsy Pickle, Knoxville News Sentinel. Top 10 worst not ranked, Dan Webster, The Spokesman Review. So this is not even one of those so bad that it's good type movies. I have no idea what Arlie are talking about after drinking gasoline and peeing in a campfire. He's talking about a fistful of pesos. What the heck? On Deadly Ground, 1994, 1 hour, 41 minutes, too long, rated R, for nudity, blasphemy, and violence, I guess. No, I don't know why. His battle to save the Alaska wilderness and protect its people can only be won on deadly ground. Okay, now I can read the movie poster. I couldn't read it on Wikipedia. It gets a low 4.6 out of 10 on IMDb, 26,000 ratings. A blowout firefighter takes on an environmentally destructive oil corporation by causing many deaths and explosions in Alaska. Now that is a good synopsis right there. We mentioned the one-win sitcoms of the Razzie organization. Featured reviews. Movie Addict 2016 has a review up on IMDb called Steven Seagal Wants You to Stop Pollution and Environmental Waste. More like this, Fire Down Below, Above the Laws, Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, and Out for Justice. Producer and director Steven Seagal filmed almost 40 minutes of footage for the environmental message at the end of the movie and planned to use it all in the final cut. After pressure from Warner Brothers and a disastrous preview screening where audience members booed, laughed, and even made obscene gestures for the entire sequence, Seagal cut the final scene. What the heck? It's telling me to sign in to IMDb. Good luck with that. Seagal cut the final scene down to about 7 minutes. He should have just eliminated the entire thing. After Taft runs Magruder into the helicopter tail rotor, Lyles drives by and sees the body, which doesn't appear to have suffered a grave head injury. Magruder is lying on his stomach with his hands over his head and no blood visible. Quotes from Michael Jennings. seeing all of his workers fleeing for their lives. You're a bunch of gutless pricks, all of you. And then seeing a worker close to him running away, you come help me. The oil worker says, F you. And then Michael Jennings says, you yellow bastard. The first half of the end credits run over images of Alaska and its various wildlife until we see Forrest Taft and Masu in a canoe, with Taft pointing out to Masu a crow in front of them circling over the water, supposedly meant to be Suluk in another form. I could care less for this old man Suluk. The elderly Eskimo who impregnated his Chinese wife with a Chinese daughter. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up here. German TV and retail video DVD versions are cut to reduce violence. Yet the uncut version is available on rental video and DVD. I must have seen the uncut version because it seemed quite violent. This was edited from Out for Justice, 1991. Release date, February 18th, 1994 in the United States. Country of origin, United States. Languages, English and Inuktitut. So you need to say Wikipedia had a very bad image of the movie poster, and they also got the language wrong. They're talking about the tribe rather than the language. Also known as Rainbow Warrior. Filming locations, Fletcher Oil Refinery, 24721 Main Street, Carson, California, USA. Production company Seagal Nassau Productions, Warner Brothers. Budget $50 million estimated. Opening weekend in the U.S. and Canada, $12,679,573 on February 21st, 1994. Gross U.S. and Canada, $38,590,458. And gross worldwide, $38,590,458. Runtime, 1 hour, 40 minutes too long. 1 hour, 41 minutes too long. Color, Dolby Stereo sound mix. Aspect ratio, 2.39 to 1. And let's check out Movie Addict 2016 review. Steven Seagal isn't exactly the poster child for peace and prosperity, so it's quite surprising that he was chosen for this film, which preaches a sermon against pollution and so on and so forth. It justifies violence by saying, hey, but we're saving Mother Earth. Sorry, Steven, it's not that black and white in the real world. I admire that Seagal is trying to promote a new image with this film. Well, actually, no, I don't admire him, but at least he provided me with some laughs. This ranks right up there with some of Arnie, Stallone, and Willis's most brutal films. Please stop with the pretentious, peaceful action movies. We pay to see your films for morally degrading butt-kicking and no-holds-barred fisticuffs, not boring messages about saving the earth. Gee, Stephen, if I wanted that, I'd go to church. There's your review from Movie Addict 2016. So there's consensus that this movie is bad, but that wouldn't stop Karate Man from putting him on a list, of course. He's got to be a Steven Seagal completist, which involves putting the stinkers on my list. but he has no idea about the real stinkers. From 2016. Attack Force. Not 2016, 2006. What am I saying? Attack Force is probably even worse than this. I won't know for a while because it's way down there on my list. Probably around year 25 when I get around to watching it. If I'm ready to retire. I should be retired at that age. All right. Number one on my list is Santa and the Three Bears, 1970. The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog, 1927. And Footprints of God with Stephen Ray, 2020. So those are the next three coming down the pike. I'll try to get 1 and 2 out of the way today after my little nappy poo laters.